it's Belle. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a wrap-up of my recent reads. And some are sequels, so I won't read the synopsis, and then some are books that I talked about before, so I won't read the synopsis. But I read The Great Hibernation by Dairman. It was one of the wintry reads I wanted to get before spring finally gets here, whenever that's going to happen. So unique and atmospheric. I really loved it. It has a combination of folklore, science, even mystery, atmosphere, adventure, friendship, humor, some twists, and there's even food in here, which I loved. It's just so creative and so imaginative. You really have to suspend your disbelief or you won't enjoy it, but that's not a problem for me. Every part that makes up the story, it combines together and to make for just a very enjoyable read. I just loved every aspect and detail the author put into it, from the Founders Day, the Sacred Liver, the town charter, this just whole town on the fjord, I don't know how to say that, the thistleberries, and just so much more. The characters are so amazing, and at times it can be quite funny also. It's just a great read, and it's perfect for winter. So highly recommend. And then in getting caught up on my series, I read the second book in Me versus the Multiverse, Enough About Me by S.G. Wilson. Can't say a lot, so I don't spoil the first book. These are just so much fun. They're full of so much humor and adventure and just so much imagination. All the different versions of Earth and all the different me's that are so alike and so different at the same time. And all the details that go with each Earth and each me are so creative and very entertaining. I love the twists and turns in this one and just had the best time. I don't know if there'll be more, but I'll keep my eye out. It was just a lot of fun. And I read Freddie versus the Family Curse by Tracy Badua. And thank you to Books Forward on Instagram that sent me this. And this comes out May 3rd. And it's one of my most highly anticipated releases of the year, so I was very excited to get it. And it's just an adventure story that's got so much heart. It was a very intriguing story, and the whole idea of this family curse hooked me from the start. You add in the amulet and everything having to do with that, it's just very gripping. The whole backstory of that amulet and of this family, fascinating. Loved it all. Freddie took my heart right away. He's just such a sweet kid who's had a rough hand dealt to him. School's hard enough for any kid, but if you add in a curse for this poor kid, it's just an embarrassing nightmare for him. And the author makes you love him and feel such empathy for him, and so you're cheering for him the whole way. And I love the cousin relationship in here, and their dynamic is the best. The humor was so good too. I absolutely loved Raymond and Freddie's great grandmother, Apong Rosie. They definitely had my heart. The ending was just phenomenal, just all of it. I love the Filipino history and traditions included in here, as well as some of the World War II history that was just heartbreaking. And I learned, and a lot of it I was learning for the first time, which shows yet again that they're not teaching every important part of history in school. This is full of adventure, friendship, family, folklore, culture, humor, and just, like I said, heart. There's even breakdancing and a Las Vegas road trip. So many things in here that just add more depth and layers to the awesomeness of the story. Great lessons in here, including like you can't let fear run your life. Curse or no curse, life's gonna be hard sometimes, but you just gotta do the best you can. There's nothing you can do about it but the best you can. Like I said, this comes out May 3rd and I highly recommend it. And thank you to Quirk Books. They had sent me an ARC and then they sent me a beautiful finished copy. This is already out. It came out April 26th. Hunters of the Lost City by Wallace. This is just such a dark and adventurous magical fantasy. Definitely upper middle grade, I would say. Just loved it. The whole backstory of Victoria and this whole world period was so fascinating to me. It had great world building with vivid, descriptive writing. It's fast-paced, thrilling. So many things in here are so imaginative and gripping, such as the backstory, like I mentioned, the Feroxes, sorcerers, healers, hunters, the past war, Victoria, the council, and just so much more. Great messages on what greed or the hunger for power can do to a person, and the price the people that are trying to get that power can pay. Being taught your whole life one way of things and then finding out almost everything you've been told your whole life is a lie, and what you choose to do with that, and how knowledge is power in itself, and using knowledge to do what is right should always be the lesson. And Octavia is such a great main character. She's just so strong, so brave, determined, loyal, and just determined to do what is right and make the truth known. And I absolutely love the friendship that grows between her and Seema. Just love their dynamic, period. I also adored Master Flavia and Rufus. All the twists and turns kept me on the edge of my seat. Like I said, definitely a little bit darker up in middle grade. Absolutely loved it. It's full of friendship, magic, monsters, adventure, suspense, danger. And just, like I said, amazing story and world building. Absolutely loved it. And then also continuing and getting caught up on series. This is the second book in the Atlantis series by Gregory, Mone. The author sent me this. Thank you so much. And this is already out. It came out April 26th. And this is The Brink of War. I'm just absolutely loving these books. The whole idea of Atlantis itself is always so fascinating to me. I love the ocean anyway. So, and then Atlantis. Ugh. And you add in the terrific storyline, amazing characters, the superb writing and world and character and story building on top of that, and I'm in love. The way the author writes the details of the setting, it makes for such an atmospheric read too. I feel like I was in Atlantis with the kids, with my own breather, my own goggles, my own gravity suit. And I just love being back with these characters. And I still love how some chapters alternate between Lewis's point of view and some are from Kaya. Lewis can be a little annoying sometimes, so it's definitely nice to alternate and get another perspective every now and then. But he is the sweetest, most innocent kid. But Kaya and Hannah are rock stars. And they are fierce, strong, brave, smart female characters, and I love them. I like the new villain addition to everything we know from the first book as well. Great messages and lessons, including not jumping to conclusions or thinking you know what's happening and therefore attacking instead of listening. Don't let fear lead you to make bad decisions. This was just action-packed, fast-paced, atmospheric adventure. I love the twists and all the high stakes. I flew through the last 60%. I just couldn't put it down. In the back of the book, there is bonus content that includes science and robotics concepts in the story and a real scientist's take on the curious biology of mermaids. And I hope there will be more to come because I'm loving these. And got a cover by one of my favorite illustrators, Vivienne. So I highly recommend. And then I read the third book in the Keeper Law City series by Shannon Messenger, Everblaze. I am flying through these books. I'm almost done with the fourth one now. These just get better and better. More intense, more fast-paced, with more danger, suspense, and mind-boggling storylines with twists and turns. And I'm just absolutely obsessed with them. The humor's still on point as well, mostly Keith, as a one-person comedy show. But some of his dialogue with Sander had me laughing so hard. There's humor that comes from other than him, like the Bronte giggle almost made me lose it. And all the twists floored me. Like, one of the first main ones in here for me was the thought that one of our characters has about who their mom could be. I was like, my mouth's really hung open. I was like, what? There's heart-wrenching moments in here too. Nothing I can't handle, so that should tell you everybody else should be fine if I can handle it. My heart broke for how one of our characters was led by the council to do something they thought was great, but was actually pretty evil. It's hard to say literally anything or point out amazing parts, because literally anything will spoil the first book. These are still a roller coaster ride of emotions, and I'm loving the ride so far. Falling more in love each book, and that makes me so excited. And there's one thing I didn't like in here that made me uncomfortable. It's briefly mentioned that some people are walking on water. And it's just a personal issue though, and it's because of my faith. I just didn't care for that and didn't feel like it was needed. Nobody should be walking on water. It's just, but I did want to point that out because it made me feel funny. Anyway, I highly recommend if you couldn't tell. So excited to continue. I don't want it to end. And then I read the first book, Shah and the End of Time by Roshani and Chokshi. And I've had this series for a while, but when Gregory Presents and Disney Books sent me the graphic novel adaptation, I went ahead and immediately picked this up because that was coming out soon, so I could read this before I read that. And I had a feeling I was going to really like these, but I was not prepared for how much I would love it. It was just phenomenal. I love mythological stories and learning the different mythologies for different cultures, and Hindu mythology was no exception. So good. I've been so impressed with Rick Riordan Presents books. He's just putting out some amazing books from some amazing authors that represent so many different cultures And that just always makes my heart so happy for all the kids who are finally getting to see themselves in the heroes and heroines in their books. Aru is my girl. Her humor is my humor. But I make movie, TV, song references all the time. So when Aru was coming out with all the stuff from like The Matrix, Johnny Cash, A Boy Named Sue, The Lion King, The Dark Knight, Friends, and more, I was in heaven. I was like, yes, girl, yes. And when they have to see who their divine father is, and the chapter is titled, Who's Your Daddy? Are you kidding me? Yes. I just love it. Boo has my heart, and he is just as funny. When he face plants at the horror of his luck getting the two kids in the beginning before he gets to know them, and like Minnie says something like that has nothing, like she's just the Whippy and Minnie, and he just face plants and it sounds like he's mumbling, why God me, why me God, why, or something like that. He's just hilarious. Or when he chases that cat at the end shouting at it about lost it. Minnie is the sweetest little thing, and I think it's perfect who her divine father is, because what he's got over is a topic that she's like obsessed with anyway, and it's just saturated. It's just perfect. And I absolutely love that the distinction was clearly made between heroes and heroines, and I love what one creature's take on heroes and their sidekicks in here was. It's just hilarious and so on point. And I love, even though that it says brothers in this mythology of this story, the author made it 2 sisters so far, because it's supposed to be 5 Pandava brothers, but so far there's 2 sisters. And I love that. The writing was superb. It's so well written, so impressed. It's just very engaging and gripping. The perfect pace, amazing story and world building, character growth, development, all of it. It's just phenomenal. Very atmospheric with the other world, and it felt like I was seeing it myself. I loved everything I learned about Hindu mythology, and I'm so eager to learn more, and that I just love when books do that. And this is a fast-paced magical adventure. It's full of adventure, friendship, mythology, danger, family, culture, bravery, and imagination. Great messages on lying versus imagination, which I just really love that, and it's a great conversation to have. And being yourself and being proud of who you are, and some issues dealing with family and issues dealing with wanting to fit in and belong, and just so much more. The twist in here had me shocked. It was such an epic ending. Just highly recommend. I'm loving these books. And then of course after I read that, I went to the graphic novel and I read it in one sitting. It's the same story, just adapted into graphic novel form. And so I'm not going to go over the review of the whole story because it's the same. So Joe Caramagna is who adapted it into a graphic novel, and he did a superb job. So everything I said about the story. And Aru Chouhan brings the story to life beautifully with her artwork, the same way the author's words brought it to life beautifully for me. And it's just how I envisioned all of it in my head, and I absolutely loved reading the novel and then diving into this immediately after. It was just such a great experience. And the adaptation aspect and the art just so brilliantly done. Just loved it. And this is out now. It came out April 19th. And then I read The Prince of Nowhere by Rochelle Hassan. And HarperCollins sent this to me, so thank you very much. It's a very highly anticipated release, and it comes out May 3rd. It was just such a dark, mind-boggling adventure, and I loved it. I love the world the author has created with its backstory, the mist, the mage, monsters, creatures, nowhere, etc. It's very intricate, and it fascinated me from the start. Amazing world building. I also love the aspect of the notes left for Rhoda. Ignis has my heart. Everything we learn about him, including what he is, his flock, what he can do, what happened before he meets Rhoda, I just loved it all. Great discussions to be had from topics in here too. That gray area of mortality in a way. If something's said to be wrong, but doing it could erase a huge tragedy, does that make you good or bad for doing it? And then the question presents itself of, what would I do in that situation? It's just, I love when books make you think like that. And actually Ignis has part of my heart, but Will has the other. Such a unique, incredible character, and I love Will. Twist had me floored and gave me a headache, but that goes along with the headache from the different timelines and trying to see it all in my head. And the authors that can write stories like this and not go crazy are just full of pure talent. Loved it. And I'm joking about having an actual headache. Like, just saying, this was such an intricate puzzle of time. And the way I feel about the ending really depends on if there will be a sequel or not. And that's just because if there will be, then I totally get why it ended that way and can't wait to see what happens next. It ended perfectly for a book that is going to be continued. If there's not, while it did have a nice kind of complete ending of sorts, it wasn't satisfying of an ending as I would have wanted. I was a little frustrated. It doesn't feel like things were closed properly. I don't know how to say it. But I love the whole book so much that I still recommend it, and I'm so happy I read it. It's darker, upper MG that I love, so loved it, and I do hope there will be more. Then I read the second book in the Shah and the Song of Death, Roshani. Hell, I'm loving them. It's just smack full of my kind of humor still. So much mythological goodness, adventure, and the most amazing friendships that are really a family now. The writing is phenomenal, still so engaging and gripping. It pulls you in from the start in every book so far. We meet 2 new characters in here who capture my heart. One did take a little bit longer, but she gets there because she's rough around the edges because she's had to be, but inside she's a sweet soul. There's a new villain or villains connected to the original quest and a whole new quest to go on where we see even more mythological places, people, creatures, gods, demons, mythology. And along the way, we also hear more stories from mythology, and I'm loving that so much. And I also love that it's brought to light that the version of stories told over years determined what people think of that person in their life, or, like in this case, mythological stories, or what they thought of those mythological beings, and whether or not it's even true. And there are 2 sides to every story, or 3 if you say one side, the other side, and then the truth. The way women will be treated or portrayed in many of these stories, mythology in particular, are hardly fair sounding at all. Stories just hold so much power of their own, and when they aren't built on truth, it can be a very dangerous thing in some ways. And my favorite things in these still are the writing, of course, the mythology, and the characters, and the amazing humor. When Vajra does a certain something to Aro in the book, or Minnie says a certain something in a scene, and Aro shouts, "Betrayal!" I can just hear her in my head, and it's just so funny. She's just the funniest character, and I just adore her. Her, Minnie, and Boo will always have my whole heart, no matter how many books come out. They're the original place in my heart. The great movie, TV, music references continue in here, including Castaway, Wilson, Moana, The Rock, Mean Girls, and just so many more. Also related to Aro's fear of all yellow starbursts. Ugh. And her love of Home Depot, except for me it's all home improvement stores really. And also thanks to Minnie, I'm now a little creeped out by butterflies. So thanks Minnie. Highly recommend. So good. Alright y'all, that's it for this video. Did you see any you want to read now? Have you read any already? Did you like them? Did you not? Let me know in the comments. I forgot to say today's shirt is Cruel Intentions. One of my favorite movies. And if you would like to subscribe, I would love that if you'd like to. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye.